I had a 5-minute doctor's appointment last week, and I learned something fascinating. Apparently, the cure for high blood pressure is more medication. Not conversation about diet, no conversation about exercise. Just, if my blood pressure is still high next time, we'll increase the dosage. And that got me thinking, are we treating health or just treating numbers? Welcome back to Trust the What.
The show where everything's made up and the points don't matter.
Sorry, future editing Tim here. That's not right. Let me fix that. The channel where we stop blindly trusting health advice that clearly isn't working and start asking better questions. Because if the system that's supposed to make us healthier is mostly handing out prescriptions, it might be time to ask, trust the what? Part 1, the doctor visit. So let me tell you what happened. Last week, I went in for a routine doctor's appointment. Nothing dramatic, just a normal check-in. They take the usual measurements, weight, blood pressure, all that fun stuff. And my blood pressure came in a little high. Now, that didn't surprise me too much because something weird always happens when I go to the doctor. My blood pressure tends to be higher in the office than it is when I'm at home. So I told him that. I said, hey, it's always normal when I check it at home. It just seems to go up when I'm sitting in this chair. Probably just a mild case of white coat hypertension. He kind of nodded, looked down at the chart for a second, and then the entire treatment plan came out in about 1 second. He said, well, if it's still high next time, we'll increase your medication. And that was basically it. No conversation about diet, no conversation about exercise, no discussion about the fact that I'm carrying some extra weight. Just, if the number is still high next time, we'll increase the dosage. The whole visit lasted maybe 5 minutes, and the treatment plan was pharmaceutical escalation. And as I walked out of the office, I kept thinking to myself, wait, are we trying to make me healthier or just trying to make the numbers on the chart look better? If I asked you what the Hippocratic Oath said, I bet most of you could quote, first do no harm. Well, those words aren't exactly in the modern or historical oath. The modern oath does say, I will prevent disease whenever I can, for prevention is preferable to cure. Now look, I'm not anti-doctor, I'm not anti-medicine, but I left that appointment thinking something was missing. The real issue was my health. I wanted a bit of that prevention from things getting worse. Part 2, the missing conversation. So here's the thing. I'm not pretending the doctor couldn't see what was going on. I'm overweight. Not a little fluffy. I'm carrying enough extra weight that it shows up clearly on the chart. And if I'm being honest, up until about a week ago, I was eating way too many sweets. Cookies, candy, desserts, the whole sugar parade. And when you combine extra weight with a lot of sugar, there's a very real chance that what's developing underneath the surface is insulin resistant. That's not exactly a shocking medical mystery. But here's what surprised me. None of that came up. Not the sweets, not the weight, not the possibility that maybe, just maybe, the elevated blood pressure might be connected to what's going on metabolically. Instead, the conversation went straight to the number on the chart. And that got me thinking about something. Imagine you pulled into your mechanic's shop because your check engine light was on and your engine was smoking. The mechanic looked at it and said, don't worry, we'll just turn off the warning light. You'd probably stare at him for a second and say, shouldn't we fix the engine? Because the warning light isn't the problem. The warning light is just telling you something else is wrong. And that's what made me ask a bigger question. Why do we accept this in healthcare? Because if you look at how a lot of modern medicine works, the pattern starts to look pretty familiar. High blood pressure, ACE inhibitors. High blood sugar, insulin or GLP-1. High cholesterol, statins. Now, don't get me wrong, those medications can absolutely lower the numbers. But here's the uncomfortable question. Are we fixing the cause or are we just lowering the warning lights on the dashboard? Because what you hear far less often is, let's lose some weight. Let's improve the diet.
And you should diet.
Let's move more. Let's cut back on the sugar and the ultra-processed foods. In other words, let's address the underlying problem. And that realization is what sent me down a bit of a rabbit hole. Part 3, the system problem. So, before this turns into a bash the doctor video, let me be clear about something. Doctors aren't evil. Most of them went into medicine because they genuinely want to help people. But the more I thought about that 5-minute appointment, the more I realized something important. The system they work in isn't really designed to fix lifestyle diseases. Think about how the typical primary care visit works. You sit in the waiting room. Eventually you get called back. A nurse checks your vitals. And by the time the doctor walks in, the clock is already ticking. Most appointments are about 5 minutes, maybe 10 if you're lucky. In that short amount of time, they have to review your chart, address whatever issue brought you in, update prescriptions, document everything for the insurance company, and move on to the next patient. Because the reality is, they're often seeing dozens of patients a day, and the healthcare reimbursement system tends to reward things that are fast and measurable. Tests, procedures, prescriptions. What doesn't fit into that system? A 30-minute conversation about diet, a detailed discussion about exercise habits, a long conversation about stress, sleep, and lifestyle changes. Those things take time, and time is one thing the system doesn't give doctors very much of. Now, here's the interesting part. Modern healthcare is actually incredible at treating acute problems. Break a leg, they'll fix it. Serious infection?
She's this crazy woman who is convinced that my germs make her sick.
I'm a germaphobe. I know what that's about.
Huh?
I'm a recovering germaphobe. 10 years.
What is this symbol?
It's a germ.
Antibiotics can save your life. Trauma, surgery, emergency care. Modern medicine is amazing at those things. But where the system struggles is with the slow-moving problems that develop over years. Things like obesity, insulin resistance, type 2 diabetes, metabolic syndrome. Those aren't problems that can get solved in 5 minutes. And they definitely aren't problems that get solved by simply lowering a number on a chart. They're lifestyle diseases, which means the real solutions often include lifestyle changes. And that's where the gap starts to appear. Part 4, the real root cause. So this is where we get to something that sits right at the heart of this channel, metabolic health. Because when you zoom out and look at many of the health problems people are dealing with today, a pattern starts to appear. High blood pressure, rising blood sugar, weight gain, fatigue, prediabetes, type 2 diabetes. Very often, these things aren't random, unrelated problems. They're connected. And one of the big connecting threads is something called insulin resistance. Now, you don't need a medical degree to understand the basic idea here. When we carry excess body fat, when we eat a lot of sugar and unprocessed foods, and when we don't move our bodies very much, our metabolism starts to struggle. Our bodies become less efficient at handling energy, and over time, that can lead to a cluster of problems that doctors call metabolic syndrome. So if someone is overweight, eating a lot of sugar, and not moving enough, their blood pressure might be a symptom. But metabolic health is the real issue, and that's the key point. Lowering the blood pressure might help a bit. It might even reduce risk in the short term, but it doesn't necessarily fix the underlying problem that created the high blood pressure in the first place. Think of it like this. If water is leaking through your ceiling, you could put a bucket on the floor to catch the drip. That might keep your carpet dry. But it doesn't fix the hole in the roof. And when it comes to metabolic health, there's good news here, because the things that improve metabolic health are often surprisingly simple. Not necessarily easy, but simple. Improving your diet, reducing sugar and ultra-processed foods, moving your body more consistently, losing excess body fat. Those lifestyle changes can dramatically affect things like blood pressure, insulin sensitivity, body weight, and overall metabolic health. In other words, sometimes the most powerful medicine isn't found in a pill bottle, Sometimes it's found in the choices we make every single day. Part 5, Personal Responsibility Pivot. So, after thinking about all of this, I came to a realization, and honestly, it's a little uncomfortable. Because it would be easy to blame the doctor, or blame the healthcare system, or blame the food industry. But here's the uncomfortable truth. The doctor is responsible for prescribing medication, but I'm responsible for my health. And once that thought landed, it changed how I started looking at the whole situation. Because the reality is, no doctor, no matter how good they are, can follow me around all day making decisions for me. They're not standing in my kitchen when I'm deciding what to eat. They're not there when I decide whether to go for a walk or to sit on the couch. They're not there when I reach for another cookie, and I do love cookies. And that means something important. As much as we want someone else to fix our health for us, we can't outsource it. We can't outsource our health to doctors. We can't outsource it to pills. And we definitely can't outsource it to the healthcare system. Because the truth is, the things that build real health happen in small decisions we make every single day. What we eat, how much we move, how we manage stress, how we sleep. Those are the things that shape our metabolic health over time. And that realization was actually pretty empowering because it means improving health isn't locked behind a prescription pad. It's something we can start working on ourselves. Part 6, the wake-up moment. So when I walked out of that 5-minute doctor's appointment, I kept replaying the conversation in my head. Blood pressure slightly high. If it's still high next time, increase the medication. And somewhere between walking through the door and jumping on my motorcycle, I realized something. If I want better health, I'm going to have to build it myself. Not in a doctor's office, not with a prescription, but in the choices I make every day. Because the truth is, real health isn't something that shows up every 6 months at a checkup. It's something that's built gradually, meal by meal, step by step, workout by workout. And the good news is that also means something powerful. It means the path to better health isn't mysterious. It doesn't require some secret medical breakthrough. It starts with the small decisions we make every day, choosing better food, moving our bodies, reducing the sugar and ultra-processed stuff, doing the simple things that support our metabolism instead of fighting against it. And when I realized that, the whole situation started to look very different. Because instead of feeling frustrated about a 5-minute appointment, I realized something much more important. The most powerful tools for improving my health were never sitting in that exam room. They were already in my hands. Doctors are trained to treat disease, but health is something you build. One meal at a time, one workout at a time, one habit at a time. Your 1% challenge. So before you leave this video, I want to challenge you to do something small today, because around here we focus on 1% improvement, not massive overnight transformations, just getting a little bit better every day. So here's your 1% challenge for today. Pick one small action, one simple action. Maybe it's this. Cut one ultra-processed food out of your day. Or try this. Go for a 20-minute walk today. Nothing extreme, just move your body. Or maybe this. Skip the sweets today and see how you feel. Just one small change. Because here's the truth most people underestimate. Small improvements done consistently create massive change. One better choice today, another one tomorrow. And before long, those small decisions start to build something powerful, real health. So I'd love to hear from you. What's your 1% improvement today? Drop it in the comments. If you got value from this video, hit like. Share it with someone who thinks pills are the only answer. Subscribe to Trust the What and ring the notification bell so you don't miss future episodes. And I'm curious, have you ever had a doctor's appointment like this? Tell me in the comments. We'll see you in the next one.